I'm Meg and this is Miles, and we have bought a 100-year-old house that is totally falling apart.
So we bought the house 6 months ago. We know there's a lot of work to be done. We have a budget of about 200k and we think it's going to be tight. We are not builders, we are not handy, so we're going to have to try and work this out.
This is Meg from Present Day. Those videos were back a year ago now when I first started posting on YouTube. We've been posting weekly vlogs ever since, so if you do want to see more detail of any of these processes, then do go check that out. I've been inspired by Benji over at BenGGS, I think, and he did a time-lapse compilation of everything they've done through the process. So I decided to pull that together here, and it's actually really, really satisfying. So I thought I would talk you through everything we're doing. So these first ones was us getting ready for hosting our first little housewarming party at the house. It was all very last minute, and we just wanted to get it to a decent state. It was an absolutely beautiful summer. This was summer 2024. We started with clearing out the garden because there was a lot of trees that were overgrown, and we ended up kind of decimating it, but that's by the by. We just got the place clean and got the carpets that smelled awful out of the house, but we did host in the garden to avoid any of this. We continued on for the next month or two, just trying to sort it all out. In the meantime, we were speaking to architects to try and work out what we were going to do with the place. The original plan was to extend out the back. Now, this didn't happen because we did not have the budget. And to be honest, I don't know if you can tell from these time lapses already, but this house is pretty massive already. And to be honest, sitting here now with it all finished, it did not need an extension. So while we were going back and forward on plans and trying to work out exactly what we wanted to do with downstairs, because upstairs didn't need a huge amount of work doing to it. Well, it needed a lot of work doing to it, but it didn't need a lot of architecture work doing to it, if that makes sense. We did what we could of stripping out. Now, this was probably September 2024, and we were doing what we could. We were still talking to architects, but if anyone's done this before, you know how long this takes, because every time you need to redraw it, obviously it takes time. But we got there and we really just did as much as we could while the sun was out, because as soon as the weather started to turn, it was incredibly dark in this house and barely any of the electrics worked. So we got a move on, did as much wallpaper stripping as we could, and a lot of these rooms ended up having the plaster ripped off anyway, so this was a bit of a waste of time. Now, architects are an interesting one, but we really wanted one because I did not want the house to feel like a builder house. I don't know if anyone knows what I mean by that, but just a big block extension out the back with no thought to where the light comes in and all that sort of stuff. I was being a bit of a snob. And it ended up that because we just did a rejig on the inside, I think we could have gotten away with just getting an architectural designer rather than a fully blown architect. We are lucky enough to have a friend who is an architect. He's in the commercial space rather than residential. Actually, he's just moved, so that's fun. But he gave us a hand when the architects just weren't really getting our vision, and we ended up spending, I think, was it 12 or 15 grand on just the architect for a fairly simple knockabout. They were incredibly helpful with their contacts. We found our incredible structural engineer, they are critical, a structural engineer, so find a good one, and our amazing builder through them. But ultimately, we spent way too much money on a proper RIBA certified architect when we easily could have just had somebody draw up the drawings that we had come up with ourselves and then go back and forth with the structural engineer and tweak as and when. And that would have been a hell of a lot cheaper. The difference between a RIBA architect and a architectural designer is that they have to pay extra insurances, so obviously it's going to cost a lot more money. It's kind of a different vibe. I don't know. That's what I would recommend if you're just knocking things about and you're confident on your spatial planning. I love this sort of stuff, and my dad's really into it, and then we also had our friend that's an architect, so I think that worked out well. We ended up knocking this whole place out and doing quite a lot of work internally downstairs. We decided that because we were stuck waiting for tender, because that's the next step you do, and that is something that was very helpful to have our architects for because they ran that for us, we decided to get a strip out done in the meantime to get all the grottiness out. There's a lot of damp plaster and things, so this is us clearing up for that. Basically, that means giving the plans and I think it's called schedule, to a few different builders. We had one that was recommended through our solicitor, and then we had 2 that came through the architects, maybe 3 actually, and I think 1 didn't respond. The point of this is to be able to compare line by line for every single part of the project. We swiftly realised that we did not have the amount of budget that we thought we needed initially. We had 200 grand aside for this. You'd think that would be plenty of money, and my dad could not comprehend that we would not have enough money to do absolutely everything in this place for 200 grand. But with COVID and Brexit, the price of materials has just gone through the roof, as well as labour. Because of Brexit, a lot of people aren't here anymore who used to be able to work in our country and have a great time doing all the work for us. So it's a bit harder to get hold of tradies that will be able to do the work for you. So therefore, the prices go up. And that's totally fine. But it did mean that we basically got the builders to do first fix, and they did second fix on the kitchen and the bathrooms. Now, this was actually quite a good way of doing it, but it did mean that we didn't have a bedroom or a living room, the rooms without any plumbing or electrics really, bar like a light in them, done. And I actually really like this way round of doing it, although it has worn thin recently. We've only just got carpet in our bedroom upstairs, which isn't shown in this video actually, so follow along to see more of that. Something that I did make a mistake on is we hired one of Miles's old work colleagues and friends as our electrician, and he is brilliant, but I did say that I was going to help him with the first fix, so running cables and things like that, because it's not a difficult job, it's just time consuming. But we were away at 2 abroad weddings and a holiday and other things over the summer, which is when this is all happening. So I didn't end up getting that done, which means that our lovely electrician was quite behind. So we did end up having quite a bit of time using lamps plugged in across rooms and extension leads, which wasn't ideal. So I wouldn't recommend pretending that you're going to help and then not actually doing it in the end. But anyway, we got to the point where we had new concrete floorboards because we had wood rot, so all of our floorboards downstairs had to go, which, to be honest, I'm not mad about, because it means that the floor is really, really solid downstairs. It meant we could also put underfloor heating on top of it. And then that was me laying floor that was actually really easy because of the concrete floor. It was so flat. A lot of the work before these clips was documented on our vlogs, and I've got a whole playlist of every single week of what happened every week. But because we did hire in builders, I couldn't film them. Basically, they weren't up for being filmed, which is totally fair enough. So if you want to see a week by week update, I'll put the playlist on the screen now, and you can go right back to the beginning and see how far we've come. A lot of these time lapses now are me and Miles trying to get stuff done, and this is the dreaded bathroom, which I'll talk a bit more about later. So as you can see, we had the tiling, we had the plumbing, electrics, all that sort of stuff done, which meant we could use the house and just deal with the dust in the bedrooms, which worked out pretty well actually. And obviously bedrooms are something that we could do ourselves. I did all the skirting boards and architraves with help of some of my friends, made this cabinet and all that sort of stuff. But I don't know, I think it worked out all right, but I would not recommend signing up for a 6-week challenge in the lead up to Christmas to try and get the house ready to host, and then host Christmas Day, another Christmas in between Christmas, New Year and New Year's, because I got very burnt out. We're now living in the house, and we moved in when was it? November 2025. So we have jumped quite a bit of time here. It is absolutely amazing. We ended up knocking through a wall between the front room and the kitchen, which means the light streams through all the way from the front to the back. Our kitchen is from the Painted Kitchen Company, and we did hire a painter to paint this after it was fitted by the Painted Kitchen Company's fitters, and I don't think he's used the right paint, so it is flaking off, so I will probably have to repaint that. But it is called Yellow Ground by Farrow & Ball. Highly recommend. It's such a sunshiny colour. Our kitchen is northwest facing, but it does get amazing sunlight in the evening, and I absolutely love it. Our builders through this project have been fantastic, and I think it was quite difficult for them to only do some of the project. I did find that the plasterers weren't very careful, and this is something that would be a big tip. Make sure you get good plasterers if you're going to be doing the decorating yourself. I mean, try and get good plasterers regardless, but I have spent so much time filling, sanding, sorting everything out, because they really did not do a very good job on any of it, really. So the house is a little bit higgledy-piggledy, and considering a lot of these walls are brand new, that should not be the case. So just something to really be aware of. It costs more money, obviously, and we did try and cut a corner here, but it's taken its toll on the decorating side. Decorating is really difficult. The painting, not that bad. It's all of the prep work beforehand. So if you can make your life easier and not have crap plastering job, it will make your life so much easier. Now, we're lucky enough to have a pretty big house here, and it's only the 2 of us, so we have quite a few dumping ground rooms. You will see through this video that there is a lot of tidying up that is done, because you're constantly moving things in and out of rooms. So last week, for example, we had to clear out 2 of the biggest rooms to put carpet down, which means it has to be completely empty, which was interesting because all of the rooms at the back were full of stuff, and obviously we had to sleep in one of them too. So this room downstairs is called the Snug, and it will one day be a lovely snug, but for now it is my workshop, and it does amazing. So I think giving yourself a actual room to work from does help, but it does end up getting to be a dumping ground, which is quite annoying. Oh, here we go. Here's a lovely shot of the kitchen. This was us getting ready for Christmas and doing the last coat of paint, I think on like the 22nd of December. So yeah, it was quite a stress. We also celebrate Christmas with Miles's family on the 24th of December, and I didn't factor that into my planning. So if you were watching this on Instagram, that would be why I just gave up and didn't finish the challenge, because we had Christmas on 24th and I only planned for the 25th. If you've got this far through the video, please do subscribe. As you can see, this house is not finished and I still have a long way to go to get it to a spanking beautiful level. We have gone really, really far through the process and we're making great progress, but as I'm sure a lot of you know who are watching this, everything costs so much money and takes so much time. So everything is a bit of a slower process now as we are doing it ourselves. When builders come in, it's all bish, bash, bosh, and there's so many people on site, they can really get through it very quickly. But not so much when you're having to put up a curtain rail twice because you put it too low. And this is already a temporary curtain rail, so that took us about 3 days to actually finally get some privacy curtains up on our basically stage at the front of the house. Something that I have really learned about myself is that I am not great with the details. I would have absolutely loved to have been able to outsource all the woodwork in this project, but we cannot do that. I am getting better and I've upgraded my saw. They are still secondhand though, so I do need a new blade. So any tips on how to get a blade for a miter saw, I'd be really, really grateful, because all of my cuts are awful. Something I've also learned is that our friends are amazing and loads of them have come and helped us get bits and bobs done. So we appreciate that so much. Something that is a bit sad though is our lovely friend Ryan helped us paint our bathroom upstairs, and through no fault of his own, it was all my fault, he painted and the paint all started flaking off. So something that has been the absolute worst job in this project so far was we all had to scrape back the paint in that bathroom. I did attempt to sand it back, put some sort of peel stop on it, fill it, and it all just kept coming off. I think basically what happened is the mist coat didn't stick, and this is a tip. So you can see me here, there is mist coat under there, it just all came off. So that means it didn't sink into the plaster. Annoyingly, when Ryan was painting this, he was like, this is, we're using a lot of paint here, and it's because it was sucking it all in there. This is latex paint. So we had two issues. We had the mist coat didn't sink in, which we bought bare plaster paint, which means it's pre-mixed, and maybe that's not the right thing to do. In future, I would use proper primer, because basically mist coat is just a cheap way of doing primer. And I would also not use latex paint anywhere because it's awful to work with, it's really hard to get off, and it doesn't sink in very well. So if anything, that is my biggest piece of advice: do not use latex paint and make sure you use a proper primer. We have now scraped it all back. It took 8.5 hours in total. You can see that on our Instagram. I did have to spend a long time doing that. Miles only got half an hour done before he lost his mind. Had to fill it all, paint it all. Again, prep work is the absolute worst. There is latex paint in the ensuite, which is why I thought it'd be fine in the family bathroom, but it is peeling off slightly. So some point in the future, we will have to scrape that back too, but that is not something that I'm going to do anytime soon. All of these jobs that we're looking at now were done just before Christmas. So I did do a bit of the scraping back before Christmas and then was like, you know what? It still works the bathroom. I do not care to spend my time getting this done. I spent 4 hours doing it in one day and I just lost my mind. So I actually didn't get this finished until March. So about a week or two ago, I only got the bathroom finished, but it is now done and it does look lovely, but it does look exactly the same as it did before it started peeling. But anyway, progress is progress, right? We are now living here and Christmas was a massive success. I would suggest not hosting this many times in one space after spending six weeks really going for it on the DIY, because you will be burnt out and then you won't be able to do anything after Christmas, which is exactly what happened to me. But we are where we are now, and we're now in April and the sun's out and it looks absolutely incredible. I would still recommend doing a renovation to anybody, and I'd also recommend being bold with colour, because that's something that we do. You can see the light here, look at that. Oh, it's just amazing. It took us a long time to find that light because over winter we didn't really get much of it, obviously. We are getting to the fun bits now of finding things secondhand. That is a big part of what I enjoy doing, and that is sourcing furniture. A bit of lore about me is that used to be my job. So I am actually professional at sourcing furniture. I don't know, I didn't do it for very long, but I do love it and I am addicted to Facebook Marketplace. So All of our stuff basically is secondhand, and I love it. These sofas, for example, we got them for £600 for the pair, and they were brand new, one of them being a sofa bed. This bed was a hand-me-down. Like, you know, you've just got to do these things. I think it makes a huge difference to the budget, and you can get much higher quality things if you buy old stuff. I'm currently sat on a chair I got off of eBay for £250, and it's the most comfortable thing I have ever sat on, so I would highly recommend that. And if you do love secondhand finds, then be sure to follow along, because that is a bit too much my personality, if I'm being honest. Here's more scraping. You can see how painful this was. I had to do it in half an hour stints and force myself to get it all done, but looking back at this, I'm just so glad it's over. Oh gosh, look at me scurrying away. What an awful job this was. If you haven't already, please do subscribe, and if you do have any questions at all, do let me know. We do very chatty vlogs pretty much every week now, so I will answer any questions you have within those vlogs, and I'll always try and get back to any comments that you do have. Please do let us know if there's anything you want to see or any tips and tricks that you have that might help us in this final stage of renovations. We still have about 6 or 7 rooms that have barely even been touched, so we'd always appreciate that, and lots of love. Hopefully we can chat soon. Bye.